Hello and welcome to Run Testers. My name's Nick. I'm off to run my first ultra this morning. It's the Orion Harriers Epping Forest Ultra. So it is the day before the Orion Ultra, the Epping Forest Ultra. My first ultramarathon, going to be running 80k tomorrow around Epping Forest on my local trails. So it's very close to home ultra. Looking forward to it. I thought I'd run through all the kit here in quite an organised manner because I'd probably forget something if I did it whilst on the walk to the race tomorrow. So the race kicks off at 8 AM tomorrow. It is a small local ultra run by my club, Orion Harriers. It is 10 laps of a 5-mile loop in the forest on trails that I know really, really well. There's a couple of ones that are a bit new to me that I've learned since finding out the ultra loop, but for the most part, I'll be on very familiar stuff. Pretty well kept main trails in the forest that are really hard and dry right now because it's been quite good weather in the UK, and then a few little single track sections in the forest, a few more routes and things like that to avoid, and then a couple of grassy sections that are a bit more exposed. They'll probably be quite hot because it is going to be quite hot tomorrow, about 26 degrees apparently. We're kicking off at 8 AM, so have a few hours where it's a bit cooler, but it should be quite hot by the end. Under the trees, it'll be okay. Might be quite hot at other parts, but that would be something else to consider. The lap is not too hilly, so it's basically the whole lap is undulating, but there's nothing too strenuous. I think I've run it a few times, about 90 meters of elevation on my watch per lap, so it all adds up to around 900 meters. Basically, it's not very hilly. We're in London here, we're not in the Alps, so there'd be less of a factor compared to just general time on feet, I think. So race plan, I don't really have one. I've never done anything like this. I'm just gonna go and try it. I'm gonna try and keep my heart rate pretty low. That's what I'm gonna base my running speed on really, and we'll see what pace comes out and how long it takes. Let's go on to kit then, and shoes. So I'm going to be using 2 shoes because I thought it'd be interesting to test them like this. I'm going to start with the Adidas Terrex Agravic Speed Ultra. I wasn't actually intending to use the shoe because I've only just started testing it, but I have now put about 60k on it. I've done one 15-mile long run in it and I really enjoyed it. I found it really comfortable to go along at very slow speed, so I think it'll be all right. I'm going to try using it. The second half of the race, I'm probably going to run in the Nike Ultrafly, which is a shoe I've done a 50k run in, and I feel very, very confident in. It's really stable, really comfortable. Really know I'll be okay in this shoe, and I probably would have used this shoe alone if I hadn't just recently got the Adidas and liked using it and thought it would be good to test them given this chance. So the plan is to do 6 laps in the Terrex, all going to plan. So that would be 30 miles, about 50k. Good strong test of it before swapping to the Ultrafly for the last 4 laps. Then I can compare the two over those kind of long distances I'll be running in both. Watches, I'll be using the Garmin Epix Pro and the Coros Pace 3, 2 watches I've been testing. Really like both of them lately. Just do a good battery life test to see how the Coros Pace 3's GPS, which I think has been really good for me in testing, see if there's a big difference over the course of 80k in the forest with lots of tree cover compared to the Epix Pro, which I'd still think Garmin's dual band GPS is the best in class, really up there. My rucksack is the Evadict trail running bag from Decathlon. It's a 10-litre bag. I used this for my 50k in Wales when I was doing some training for this ultra. Don't have to carry a huge amount of essential kit. They just told us we don't have to take a beanie, hat and gloves because it's going to be very warm tomorrow, so that's good. So there's not a huge amount of essential kit. I'm going to have 2 soft flasks in the front of the bag, some bars and stuff like that in the back, plus jacket and emergency blanket, which we still do have to take. But yeah, that bag is really comfortable. It's got 3 straps on the front that you can adjust that I found have made it really easy to use to get a nice stable fit that isn't too annoying over long runs. So fuel-wise, it's a tricky one for me because normally I'm fueling for races. I'm going to be running very hard, burning lots of carbs. That isn't really the case tomorrow, so don't really know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm going to have 1 soft flask of water, 1 soft flask of an OTE super carbs drink that is, it's 80 grams of carbs per 500 milliliters. I'll probably dilute it down a little bit and carry it in a smaller flask anyway, just to have a constant source of carbs and electrolytes in drink form that I find quite easy to take on generally. We'll see how that goes tomorrow. I'm also going to carry testing a lot of OTE stuff basically tomorrow. So I'm carrying some of their new OTE chews, which are little energy chews that have 23 grams of carbs, and their Rice Krispie bars. I'll carry some of those with me as well. That would just be stuff to have on the 5-mile loop, just in case I really want something to eat, something actually solid to eat during the run. And then back at the base, I'll have a few more of those bars, some Pringles and Coke. I had a bit of food poisoning lately, and I learned that pretty much no matter how sick I am, I can have Pringles and Coke. So hopefully that'll be the case. If I'm really struggling tomorrow, I'll be able to eat that. Coke is already open, so it flattens down a bit because I prefer flat Coke, so that'll be better for the run tomorrow. Also, back at base, I'll have a big old bottle or a few bottles of electrolytes, Precision Fuel and Hydration's electrolyte drink, because it is going to be quite hot. I'm going to want to keep on top of that, I think, tomorrow as well. But basically, all of that might prove to be a complete mistake because, like I say, I don't really know what I'm doing, so that's why I wanted to put it out there pre-race, make it clear what my plan was. You might have a good laugh at it if it's wrong, and then tomorrow we'll see how it all went. But I'm really looking forward to it. I'm hoping for at least a few hours. It'll be very nice running in the forest with people I know and generally having a lovely time. And then there might be a few hours of unpleasantness, but that'll be fine. We'll get through that.
Hello, this is Ellie.
Hiya.
We've just gone through marathon mark, so we're just over halfway, about 3:28 marathon. So far okay, we're ticking along around 5k. Ellie knows what she's doing, so I don't feel too bad being with her, even though it might be a bit fast. And we're in 3rd and 4th right now. One lad went off very quick. Yeah, so far, Adidas Terrex shoes, very comfy, very good. They're, you know, for this kind of pace, very steady, slow pace, and they're rolling through nicely, got no discomfort, no worries about any squirrely bits on the slight rooty section we have on the lap. But I'm going to change after this lap, I'm going to change into the Nike Ultrafly. If they feel a lot better, I'll be furious that I ran 30 miles in the other shoes, but I think they'll probably feel quite similar. Anyway, my arm's tired. That'll probably be the last check until the end. Say bye, Ellie. Well, I am done. Not in terms of distance, unfortunately. I've got 10 more miles, 2 more loops, but I'm completely blown. Like last lap was, legs are awful, but don't feel bad. I feel like I'd be running, but my lungs are completely gone. Just used my inhaler, so I'm hoping I'll be able to chuff along. Chuffing is when my really slow pace, where I still run, but I think I can probably get towards 7.5k. But the moment's gonna be a walk run, have an ice cream. Hope the inhaler makes me feel like I can take some deep breaths, and then I'll try and run again, but 2 more laps. So I am all done. I did manage to get around the course, got my medal there. I'm really pleased that I managed to achieve that. I think I was basically just over 8 hours. 7 solid laps with Ellie, who went on to win it like an absolute legend, because she's absolutely extraordinary, and just barely, I think, dropped her pace till the last 3 laps. Legend. And then I had 3 laps where, you know, I missed 8th lap. I almost stopped because I just, even walking, was quite short of breath. So I got back to the site with the drop bag, and I used my inhaler. And then the 9th and 10th laps were okay. Like, they were still really slow, like an hour. I was jogging, walking, but I could move a bit better. I wasn't worried that I was doing any damage to myself. I did clock myself in the head quite early, and it turned out I did bleed, but that wasn't bad. It's the little bit of blood, doesn't look any bad, but yeah, there's some low-hanging branches you can look out for in the forest. I think I was 4th overall and 3rd male, so I will take that. Basically, I was pure survival mode for 3 laps after 7 quite enjoyable laps, as I hoped. So I wanted to get to about 7 enjoyable laps and see what happened from there, and then it was a bit of a struggle, but I had a really good time, learned a lot. I don't think I maybe didn't learn that much about pacing, because the way I blew up, I just don't know if I'm cut out to not blow up in those, but could have gone out a bit slower, I'm sure. But in general, just learned about myself, learned about some of the gear I use. We'll talk about that again later. I can't do that now because I really need to shower and help out with some childcare. But great day. Congrats to Ellie, Donald and Jason, who were 1, 2, 3 today. And anyone who ran it, to be honest, like Fu, my mates Fu and Raf both ran. Paul ran. I'm going to forget people, but basically running out there today, it was hot, it was tough, it was just a strong effort to be out there, and with a 10.5 hour cut-off, it's going to be quite tight, I think. So anyone who got through, brilliant. Great day out, really nice event, lovely grassroots event, as all Orion Harriers events are, I would say that. I'll talk more about that later. I am just going to go shower now and help out the kids.
It is the day after the Ultra now. I've had a bit of time to reflect on it and what was a really grand day out in the forest. I had a really good time, nothing but good vibes about the event, to be honest. It was a lovely atmosphere among the runners and supporters, really well organised. Just the perfect first Ultra for someone like myself. Well-worn tracks, 5-mile loops, lots of people I know. I had a really good time all round, and just delighted to have finished, got it under my belt. So lots of things I learned. A couple of things looking back I definitely try and remember next time would be to start walking hills earlier. It's walking while feeling good is a hard thing to do, and the hills aren't particularly onerous in Epping Forest, so felt like I could jog up them quite easily, but walking them maybe a couple of laps earlier than I had to would have been a smarter move to do. I also noticed, like looking back, that once I did start walking, I kind of stopped fueling, and that's something that I think I carried over a bit from road running. Like if I blew up in a marathon, I wouldn't take any more gels, I'd just get through to the finish, but that would only normally be 20, 30 minutes. So yesterday I had 3 hours of blow up. I needed to keep fueling, probably take on a bit more than I did, might have made the last lap or so feel a bit better, but again, something to learn. Overall, absolutely delighted. Finished it, got it done. fantastic runners out there I got to run with and enjoy running with, and then watch disappear into the distance as they finished much more strongly than me, but had a really good time all round. Right, let's run through some kit then. So shoes. So obviously, a lot of the time I was running in the Ultrafly yesterday, I was having a bit of a bad time. I only really got one good lap in it, whereas I got 6 good laps in the Adidas Terrex Agravic Speed Ultra, but I have run a 50k in the Nike in the past this summer, so I feel like I can compare them fairly well. But some direct comparisons from yesterday, really noticeable when I pulled on the Ultrafly that it's a lot more noticeable on top. The padding at the back, the upper at the front feels thicker, more oppressive on the foot. It's not always in a terrible way. No, it's cushioning it quite well. It wasn't like rubbing or uncomfortable, but it's much thicker, a bit warmer. And the Adidas has a really lightweight upper, but it still felt really comfortable and supportive throughout the run. Had no rubbing at all from the shoe, or either shoe actually, in fact. One of my big toenails is a bit bruised, but that I expected. Like, it's not too bad. So really, comfort-wise, both shoes felt really, really good. Terrex feels lighter all round. It is lighter all round, but it also feels a fair bit lighter. It's got a much more turnover to it. It feels like you can keep ticking over a bit more comfortably in it compared to the Nike. And that wasn't just because of yesterday. I think in general, it feels like a slightly faster shoe. Not that I was trying to run fast yesterday, but it felt that even actually running at slow paces, turning over felt quite easy in it. Nike still feels good for that kind of thing, and I enjoy shuffling through my run in Wales in it. But I think you've got a bit more of a lighter shoe, a slightly more speedy shoe in the Terrex Ultra in a way that carries over to very long distances as well. It just means you can keep turning your legs over quite well in it, I found. So yeah, in those first 6 laps in the Adidas, I felt really nice, really fluid. Did feel like I was rolling through really nicely. We were aiming for around 5k, 8-minute miles, something like that. And it just, you know, ticked over, riding the bumps in the course, so slower up the hills and then faster down hills. It's a good shoe going downhill. Like, it wasn't anything particularly technical yesterday. So I suppose my big fear with the Adidas is the narrow base you have there, especially around the pinch point in the middle. Actually didn't come into play at all, and hasn't really on my runs in it. Like, I've not been running very technical terrain in it, and maybe that would be more of a concern for me. If I was coming down a steep rocky descent, I'd be a bit more worried about the narrowness at the back there, whereas the Nike feels much more stable and grounded, gives you that big wide platform to land on. But the Adidas was great yesterday. I had no worries about it at all. Felt like I was really in control running in it, and it was giving a nice solid base on the forefoot to land safely, or, you know, roll through from my heel onto, and then get a nice bit of propulsion from the lightweight foam in the midsole there. So yeah, I do think they're an excellent shoe. I really like them. We'll have a full review coming. Obviously, I think they're a better, actually, all-round shoe than when I first tested them, when I was a bit more worried about the instability there. I think if I was on a very rocky, twisty course with lots of tricky descents in particular, I'm not a great descender, I'm a bit novice in this area. I feel like the Nike is a bit more of a friendly shoe. I think it will support people a bit better. At the same time, I think the Adidas is a slightly faster shoe. If you're on runnable trails, I think it gives you a bit more oomph, and it rolls through really nicely. And I think if you are an experienced trail runner, mountain runner, you'll probably be fine with it on any kind of terrain. But I do think the Nike has a little bit more accessibility in terms of the ride it provides, because it is very stable and grounded with the extra width you have in it. Talking about the watches and the heart rate monitor, not too much to say here. Both performed really, really well. Like, the distance was slightly different. I had 83.25k on the Garmin and 82.75 on the Coros. I think slightly less on the Coros, but really, you know, half a K over 80k. It really isn't very much at all. You can see on the GPS trace, I think the Coros gets slightly wobblier under tree cover, and it cuts corners slightly more often maybe than the Garmin, but actually, who's to say what was really right over that distance? It wasn't like it was an exactly measured 5-mile loop. It was very close to that, and obviously it was a bit long in the end, the Ultra. So I'd say both performed really well on GPS. That's multi-band mode for both of them. Good, accurate stuff. I wasn't pacing each individual kilometre. I had like my lap pace up for each lap, and they were both showing very similar numbers. So pace 3 really feels very strong on GPS compared to what we've seen from Coros in the past in particular. The battery life on the watches is really quite good as well. You know, these are multi-band watches, so it's using quite a lot of GPS. The Epix Pro is obviously a much bigger watch, has more room for battery, but it has the AMOLED screen. So the Epix Pro started at 97%, dropped to 79% after 8 hours of running, and the Coros Pace 3 started at 99% and then dropped to 57%. So really getting through an 8-hour run very, very comfortably with no concerns about the battery life dying, because you're using that multi-band GPS. My fuel plan in the end was kind of made up as I went along, but I had a lot of stuff with me. So Kieran actually mentioned to me the day before the race, maybe I should still aim for like 60 grams of carbs per hour, even though I wasn't running as hard as if I was doing a marathon. So I was trying to hit roughly that number. Each lap I had one of these chews from OTE. which are 23 grams of carbs. There's an apple flavour and a strawberry flavour. Don't really like the strawberry flavour. I don't tend to like strawberry things in general though. Apple flavour is very appley, which is nice, but also quite intense. But I found these were quite good to get down. So more or less at the start of each lap, I'd chew one of these or hold it in my mouth, let it dissolve a little bit. It was easy enough to get down, despite the fact it is quite solid. When ticking over at a quite gentle pace, like I say, around 5k, I was able to chew those and eat those quite comfortably. Then for the rest of the lap, I had the OTE Super Carb drinks mix in a bottle, and I was going through probably about one bottle every 2 laps. So probably a little bit less than 20 grams of carbs from the bottle on each lap, and then having some Pringles and Coke back at the aid station. So all in all, I was probably getting less than 60 grams of carbs an hour. And like I said, I probably should have kept fueling a bit later into the run, but I was pretty happy all round with the nutrition I had. Stomach felt okay throughout the whole thing. I had a few moments of slight nausea, but I don't know if that was down to the stuff I was eating or the general fact I was running far further and far longer than I ever had done before. So I was happy with all that stuff. I think it's a good range, the OT range for ultras, because it has got some flavour to it. There's electrolytes added to lots of stuff. It's a bit less intense, I'd say, than the Morton stuff I tend to use for road marathons, which is very neutral flavours. It feels very, very performance focused, like you're putting it in as fuel, you're doing it very calculated and just using that to power through something like a marathon. I did have some Morton drink yesterday at times, but it's a bit thicker, I think a bit less suited for that very long range effort for me. I think I preferred the slightly more flavourful, tasty stuff from OTE for that. And these chews, I think, are really good because they're very small and thin. It's 23 grams of carbs. They're quite easy to get down. They don't seem to upset my stomach. So yeah, I like those a lot. Big fan of those. And then the kit in general, I've got no complaints. Like, it's all stuff I've tested before, but I was out there for 8 hours. I was really comfortable the whole time. Like the Soar t-shirt I used, no rubbing, no chafing. Same with the CimAlp shorts. It's all, like I say, tried and tested gear, but it's good to test it over that kind of distance and time as well, because it was just as comfortable as I'd expect and hope. The Evadict trail running bag from Decathlon really is very good. Like, it's a fair bit cheaper than lots of the other bags I've tested, but it performs really well. I'll pop a link in the caption because the names of Decathlon are quite hard to get exactly right, but easily carried all the stuff I need with me. You've got the 3 adjustable straps on the front there, which I find was great. Like, it just means I can just tighten them slightly as my water bottles in the front of the backpack went down. I say that there's not a load of other adjustment options on the bag, but it fits me quite well straight away when I pulled it on. I think there's a couple of size options. So maybe if you don't get on one of the sizes straight away, it might be slightly harder to get a great fit because other bags have a bit more adjustment around the sides and back, but I had no concerns with that. I prefer to use only one 500ml bottle in the front of the running backpack with that backpack, and then the other one I have a smaller soft flask, like 360ml, because with 2 500s it did feel a bit jumpy at the front there, so I tended to use a slightly smaller soft flask in one thing, but then not necessarily going to be a problem for everyone. Actually, Jason, the guy who finished ahead of me in third, was also using this backpack, so really no complaints with it at all. It's a great backpack for the money there, loads of storage, easy to carry all the essential gear in the back. There wasn't loads of that for this Ultra, obviously, because it was a fairly warm day on the loops course, but still, it was really comfortable, not much bouncing. Didn't annoy me at all for the entire length of the Ultra, or indeed the 51k I ran in Wales using it. So all round, pretty positive all round. Like, I'm just happy, just happy I did it, got through, and I really didn't think I was necessarily going to do it at one point on the run, and I thought that'd be really frustrating to have some unfinished business and have to go and do another one, because the plan now is to go back to some shorter, faster stuff on the road for the foreseeable future, now that it's not a new baby anymore. I've still got a very young kid, but he's not a new baby. I didn't really want to put too much pressure on myself this summer, and this Ultra on home turf in Epping Forest was exactly the kind of thing I did want to do. So had a great time, highly recommend it. I'm sure it'll come back next year. Come and give it a go. 10 laps is a lot of laps, but it's great fun, really well supported, really well organised. Yeah, great day out, and well done again everyone who ran.